Greetings, dreamers. My name is Melanie Stewart, and I am your host of Beyond Gaia. Welcome to episode 7, and thank you so very much for choosing to be here. For those of you that are continued to stay with me, I truly appreciate your presence and your support. You are an important part of this channel. And to all the new subscribers, I welcome you. Thank you so much for choosing to join me. As we journey together within these experiences, today is a new moon, so I'm wishing you all a very happy new moon in Leo. I have felt to do something different, something I do for myself and for others, but I haven't actually done yet on this podcast of Beyond Gaia, is to draw a card that is the most reflective of this new moon energy. And I'm choosing a card from a deck I created previously with Blue Angel Publishing. That deck is called the Native Heart Healing Oracle, my first love. At the moment, I'm in the process of creating 3 more decks, which I'm very excited about. And the theme of one of those decks is reflective in the experiences that I'll be sharing with you today. And the theme of one of those decks is the Temple of the Heart. So that theme will be present through some of the experiences I'm sharing with you today. And the other 2 decks that I'm creating, one is an open contact deck. I'm co-creating that deck with another amazing human. And also a deck that focuses purely on the essence of the hybrid children. So I'm very much loving shuffling between these different decks as they call me, as they speak to me. There is quite a consciousness, or to put it more specifically, a council of many beings, of a collective consciousness that is behind each one of the decks. And the same goes for my first deck, being the Native Heart Healing Oracle. So I am going to shuffle now. I haven't pre-shuffled. I prefer to do it in the moment. So thank you for bearing with me, and the sound of the cards as I pull a card that is the most reflective for each and every one on this new moon in Leo. And I ask that if you have something that is weighing on your heart at present, to bring that into your focus right now, to feel where it is sitting within your body or within your heart, and bring it into your awareness. And you may even like to visualize an orb of light that comes in around that challenge or that desire or that question, that limitation, resistance, whatever it may be. And that orb of light assists you to move that up and through the body, whether you're wishing to release it by taking it down through the feet, or whether you are actually wishing to bring it into fruition with it being a new moon. You may wish to bring it right up into your heart, or expand it out through your crown. See it going out through your heart and into physical manifestation within the world itself. And I'm just continuing to shuffle here. And now I'm going to split the deck into 3. That's better. I wasn't quite finished shuffling. And I split the deck into 3 always so that I'm not influencing the cards in any way as in to bring a card out. So I'm splitting the deck in 3, and then I choose from the pile. There we are. And the card that has come out, wow, it is, I would say, the most powerful card in this deck. It's number 18, and it's the Sacred Serpent. And this is it helps me understand also why I felt the need to share the experiences that I'm sharing with you today, which I will go into more detail. I'll touch on very soon. But the Sacred Serpent card is reflective of huge, very powerful transformation. It's reflective of rebirth. It is being able on this dark moon to find the light within the darkness, knowing that the light and the darkness both exist simultaneously. Remembering that the inverse is always true. If you're feeling dark or heavy, remember the inverse is always true. And when we are very much feeling in our light, it is important to remember that that can cast a very big shadow. And just to be self-aware of that, not just for you, but for others. This card also relates to, given that is the serpent, shedding an aspect of the past and transforming challenge into creativity. How you can creatively express or find ways to transform what may be challenging in your life at present. It's a very healing card. I'll read to you some of the guidance from the booklet. Excuse me. This healing mandala brings guidance on the transition you are currently experiencing. You are encouraged and supported to enter the Aztec temple of the Serpent of Light. The mandala of renewal speaks of the balance of light and darkness within, and thus without. It represents a time of solstice and celebration. The sacred serpent awakens within your core and watches over you as you descend into the depths of yourself to enter the spiral of life. Honor this sacred time as you enter your inner temple for a journey that could only lead to renewal. The sacred serpent guides you in reawakening your light, carrying you back within yourself so you can be born anew. Rise again, dear one, as the serpent rises within you. The energy within this mandala suggests that an aspect of your older self is relaxing and making way for a brighter new self to be born. This process can be as simple as you choose for it to be. Invite your new self, thus your higher self, within by calling it from your heart. It's the rainbow rays. It assimilates with the 7 main chakras: fire, the Aztec temple, Kundalini energy, rebirth, the nervous system. When I was creating the imagery that is on this deck, and I'm not sure if there is a way, the imagery that's on this card, I'm not sure if there is a way for me to upload an image at the end of this video or in the comments. I'll find a way of doing that just so you can actually see the imagery. When I was creating this card and remembering that I had, when I birthed this deck, and still to this now, I'd never had any formal training. I began birthing this deck I'd say about 7 years ago. Never watched any YouTube videos. I was barely even on YouTube, to be honest. It was just something my children would use. And I had been channeling at that point for a good 7 or 8 years for clients. And then one day I sat down and I was doodling with my daughter at the coffee table. I went into a channeling state just very organically whilst I was drawing. And from that channeling state, I then just began drawing a mandala in sacred geometry for the first time. Now, I'd never had any art lessons. I wasn't into art at school. At this point in my life, I was just getting by from week to week as a sole parent that had come out of a lot of trauma, taking care of 2 children. I didn't even have, even as a child, I don't even remember having colouring in pencils because I came from quite a poor family. So I was using, when I created this, just my daughter's basic colouring in pencils. She had a compass in a pencil case because she was at that level at school where they were starting to use it in maths. And I was using her basic sketch pad that she used in primary school for art. And I birthed my very first mandala, and I didn't even know what a mandala was, didn't even know anything about sacred geometry. I was somebody that awakened and was I had very little contact with anybody within a said spiritual community. So my method of remembering and learning was through my higher self. I wasn't surrounded by people that could actually help me understand what was going on. So it was very much an inner process and me trusting in what I know that I know, if that makes sense. So I wasn't intending on sharing this story, but here we are. So I share that part with you to actually help you understand that from there, I didn't know what had happened, and then the next day, because I sat until 3 a.m. drawing this image, and then my first image, not the sacred serpent, and then the next day went into a channeling state and actually asked my higher self and those spirit guides that were around me as to what had happened. I'd never drawn like this before. There was this perfect symmetry. The mandala was really beautiful. And I was guided that there was higher aspects of myself that were actually creating through me and using myself as a vessel to be able to sort of creatively express, for me to not label it or put any expectations on it, and if it was something that I felt passionate about or excited about, to continue to explore it. And that's exactly what I did, because I felt this huge rush and this river of excitement and passion running through me, because I'd never been able to express myself creatively in any way like that. I would be creative around the home and in the kitchen, but I hadn't, and I was creative in my channeling, which I loved, but to be able to draw in that way was something that felt suddenly very at home and very natural for me. So I continued to create these images, and in creating them, I was actually shown that they would become an oracle deck. And thus they did. They were taken on and published by Blue Angel Publishing, which I'm hugely thankful for. And this card in particular, the Sacred Serpent, while I was drawing this, I actually saw myself, because when I draw, I'm not only channeling and going into an altered state, it's more like a shamanic state. It is like shape-shifting. For me, it is also, now that I'm more conscious of what I'm doing, I can also see that I'm entering the astral state simultaneously. So there is many different, this is a very multi-dimensional experience for me, with many different layers in the fabric of this reality. And when I am in that state, my eyes are partially open and then my eyes are partially closed, but I'm still drawing, and I can see within my mind's eye, and then I begin to shift to actually feel myself like feet on the ground there, and I'm standing in front of this beautiful ancient temple. At the time, I'm going to be very transparent with you, I actually called it the Aztec Temple. Now, with a lot more knowledge and understanding, I feel that it may have been relating more to, or perhaps there's a crossover of both. And I say this with full respect to the cultures, to the Aztec culture, and a deep reverence. But I also feel it may be leaning in the Mayan direction. But this is the visualization and the experience I was having. I was standing before this ancient temple. It was the pyramid-looking structure with the big stairs up the front. It was a jungle-like environment that was actually around me. And then I also felt tribes standing around me. And I saw there was other beings before I did it myself, but there was just a small number. I believe there was only 2 or 3 beings that were actually choosing to enter the temple. and they were entering the temple. It was on a specific moon. It may have also been on a solstice or around a solstice that I was creating this unintentionally, but also from my higher self intentionally. And I could see in summary, I could feel the energy and the support and the encouragement that was coming from the tribe for those courageous souls that were choosing to enter into the temple and enter into complete darkness, because that's what I could actually see. By entering into the temple, they weren't taking any light with them, and even if the sun did rise, the temple was still inside going to be in the darkness, and that they would stay in that temple until they actually for how many hours or perhaps days, until they actually discovered more of their own light, and they would have a rebirth and then ascend up and come out of the temple. And the coming out of the temple seemed to also align with a specific moon or auspicious day. And all of this is sort of playing out in front of me really sort of quite quickly, but at the same time there are parts of it that are in slow motion, and there are parts of it that are shifting, like I'm shifting timelines, experiencing this through many different versions of myself and parallel timelines. And I actually went through the process of entering the temple myself. And what I will share is that coming out of the temple, there was so much celebration for each of the beings that chose to know more of themselves, that chose to go down that path of self-discovery and self-realization through entering into the darkness of that way. And then I could see fire and food and lots of celebration on the other side of this. So that is a quick summary of this card. There was a lot of celebration, a lot of support, but also being willing to actually go within and know that there's never really anything to truly fear. So that is an aspect of this card of the sacred serpent that's actually come out on this dark new moon in Leo. And I hope that that is going to be symbolic for you in some way. And now what I'd actually like to take you to is some recent experiences that I've had. And I humbly say that I have a vast array of astral experiences to draw upon. And I always feel into which one feels the most relevant for me to share here with you in the Beyond Gaia podcast. And these are more recent experiences for me. And they do line up with the original theme that I was hoping for with this Beyond Gaia podcast, that I slightly deferred from time to time, is on the new moon sharing more of a healing inner journey experience, and on the full moon sharing something that is more about going up and out, and although it's always within, journeying to different races and or different crafts or whatever it may be. So on this new moon, I felt to share with you some recent astral experiences that I had that were inner body as well as outer body. Now, we can actually astral project within ourselves. And what you will do is you will visit projections of the astral realms that are directly reflective of those parts of your inner body. And for me, what the focus was that I felt a really strong draw to explore, and this has been within the last few months, but there's been a big shift around it for me in the last few weeks, especially as I've been going deeper and working on this new oracle deck, being the Temple of the Heart. I could feel my own Temple of the Heart calling me in a deeper way than what I'd actually experienced before. And I had been leading myself through lots of different processes of healing to be able to explore my own temple of the heart. And on this particular eve, when I was going into my astral state, I was sitting doing my deep breathing, had my eyes closed. I had the intention of actually answering the call that I could feel coming from my heart, which is more so a vibrational alignment. I have been doing a lot as I go into the state of throat singing and toning. Now, I believe we all have a beautiful voice, even when it is not in what we would consider to be classically attuned or in the right tone. And my voice would be the later. It would be considered to be not in tune or in the right tone. But all of our voices are still beautiful, even if they are not in tune. And the reason for that is when we allow ourselves to tone and sound and sing, and for me it was also the throat singing, which just comes through for me very organically, is allowing those parts of you, those denser aspects of you, which usually are the reason for things not being in tune, that are slightly fragmented, that are feeling a sense of separation. There could be resistance there could be trauma, there could just be programming, there could be challenges that you're emotionally connected to from other timelines that have created a level of discord, and therefore that's reflective through the throat chakra, the heart chakra and the throat chakra, and you not feeling as if you can fully express yourself in that way or be heard. And there's many of us that I feel can align with not feeling as if we can actually be heard in this way. And I'm somebody that had never openly sung or toned or made sounds in front of anybody apart from my children. And even then, I'm not overly vocal about it, although that's shifted for me in the last couple of years. So for toning for me and the throat singing, when it came through, it first came through about 10 years ago when I was still very quiet about it. And it's only been in the last couple of years that I just allow it to come through a lot more organically. I have found that when I sing and when I tone, or when we individually, and also this applies collectively, even when we're doing it individually, the ripple I'm referring to, when we allowed our song of our heart and even of our wounds to be heard, it allows, and I'm feeling any discord that's within me right now, breathe a sigh of relief in sharing this. It allows the density and the imperfections to be heard. And that in itself can be the foundations of where the healing happens, of where the healing begins, and sometimes even where the healing ends. It can go full circle in feeling that it can be heard, without any need to fix it, without any need to make it right, by just allowing the sounds as they come out, which is the denser aspects of self. And when you're doing this, it allows those denser aspects to align with many different levels of your consciousness. They start to innately blend with higher levels of tone and sound and higher levels of the heart, and you start to align yourself more with the song that is of your essence. And even though the discord is not to say that when the lower density, when that is sounding, that is still of your essence. But it's remembering its song. And when it's remembering its song and expressing itself when it feels scared to do so, but it feels an overwhelming desire to be heard, that can come out as being out of pitch, out of tone, sounding quite odd. But there's so much beauty and there's so much healing, and it's such an alchemical process if we can allow for this to take place. So this is what I do when I utilize it a lot going into the astral, not all the time, but the moment that I had a focus of going into the temple of my heart, it just came flooding through me. And opening up that gateway in that way you feel the body soften, you feel the body drop and the heart open. So this is what I was doing as I was sitting on my bed and simultaneously going into the astral state like I would usually do. And I started to hear sounds and toning echoing back to me. And I noticed it. And rather than think about it, you are so much in the moment that you're just simply allowing the reverberation that's taking place to occur. I'm not thinking about what's happening because I'm trusting that it's going to show itself to me. And then I start to notice, again, very naturally, my sounds and my toning begin to match the vibration of this echo or these sounds that are actually coming back to me. And then I find myself within like a big open plain. And I know that I'm in the astral. I know when I'm in the astral. And this plain is, I can feel that to the right to me, there's other tribes. Or there's tribes, there's people there, but they're right far in my peripheral vision to the right. And to my left, I can see a teepee-like structure. And I hear singing coming from there. And I know that that's where I'm actually meant to be going. I can feel my heart drawing me over, and it's very close to me. And as I walk closer to the entrance, and this structure is also glowing, which tells me that there's a fire within. And I wish to share with you that I'm giving you the steps of walking closer. But when I'm in the astral, I don't need to walk closer. I just choose to place myself there, and I am. But sometimes it's nice to take yourself through the process of walking to integrate more of the experience and where you are, and to truly feel the earth underneath your feet, and to help you adjust to the astral body itself. And as I walk closer to this structure, I look in and I can see a group of beings that are sitting around a fire. And I see one being in particular that I am very drawn to. And I can see that he is leading this type of circle or ceremony that's taking place. And it is his singing that is more primary. It's at the forefront, and I can feel the others, their song and their sound, but his is more notable to me. It resonates more with me. And then what happened, this whole experience, of course, is very magical, but then something very special happens where he looks up and doesn't make eye contact with me, but I can feel through an energy exchange that he's inviting me to come in. So I go inside this space that is similar to a teepee-like structure. And there's the fire in the center and all these beings sitting around it. And even though it's a circle, when there's a circle, there's no real head person at the circle, but you can still feel that he is what I would consider to be an elder, and that is leading the circle. I stand back and I don't want to intrude. And then the singing comes to a close, and I can see that I watch each one of the beings get up and give their thanks to this main elder, who is a male, and they begin to just leave this teepee-like structure. And then I'm just standing there to the side, almost opposite this elder being, and I see him. And he looks at me in the eyes, which I'm very surprised about. And he lets me know, he says, I see you and I know that you're here. And I essentially ask respectfully if it's okay for me to be here. And he doesn't say anything. He just nods to me and invites me to sit down at the fire with him. And I sit down and I begin to... Oh, that's right. He asked me what led me to be here in the presence with him. And I explained to him that I was singing and toning and with the intention of accessing more of my heart space, or the temple of my heart, and that I found myself standing at the front of this teepee on this beautiful open plain. And he then understands that I'd followed his song, and he told me that he could hear my song. And to summarize what took place between us, he would be what I would consider to be a past aspect of self, even though everything is in the now. And I have accessed this timeline for quite a few different reasons. It was very empowering to see myself, or an aspect of myself, in this light, in this way. He saw me more so as like a spirit guide. And when I explained to him, he was curious to know more of who I was, and I actually explained to him of my future timeline and how I astral project and how I came to be. Even though I told him I was following the sounds, I gave him some of the processes that I moved through to be where I am with him. And you could see him taking it in and also helping him understand. I could see that he was also an astral projector, that they just didn't have that terminology for it, that his version of astral projecting, which is where they do the shamanic dreaming, or where they can actually walk between worlds, and what the shaman or the medicine man or woman can do. So he was very curious and asking me a lot of questions, and I was doing my best to answer them, and in turn I was asking him questions as well. And then he could also see that he had a way of looking right into my heart space, where he assisted me in looking at parts of myself and releasing things and beliefs that I had carried since I was a child, and also beliefs from other timelines, even timeline related to him, and release these beliefs into the fire, which I was doing. And I was watching this fire, because when you're in the astral, again, everything's a lot more vibrant and pigmented, and I was watching this fire dance, and the bright purples and the oranges and the embers going through right up into the hole, through the roof of the teepee. Like I could see it going all the way up into the night sky. Being inside the teepee, I also noticed that I had the ability, even when I couldn't, I could see through the teepee out to the night sky simultaneously, not just through the hole that was there, the natural opening, but things become more transparent when you're in the astral state. So I could actually see between, and he could see me doing this, and he asked me, and I explained to him what I was doing, and then he related it to his own experiences. So it was very healing for me. There was a lot of beliefs that I was releasing into the fire to look myself, this past version of myself, who was a very respected elder, in the eyes in this way, and to help me see more of who I am or who I have been. And for him, vice versa. He made it clear to me. And as I share this to you, I am remembering now, because I can feel his essence as I speak to you. I cannot go into this level of depth and open the door to this experience without feeling the essence of the experience itself, his essence. And I can feel his essence right now, and he's reminding me of the crow. And that's what I also do remember when I first landed in the astral plane. Crow, it could also be a raven. He didn't give a name to it. It was just the big, beautiful, this majestic black bird that looked crow or raven. And it was sitting up on top of this teepee-like structure. And then when I went inside, it was sitting upon his shoulder. And that was also very significant. It seemed to be the messenger that was assisting him and I in bridging worlds. And so to see each other in this light, I'm sorry, I've lost track a little bit. But yes, the essence of what was taking place was very transformative and healing for the both of us. We continued then we didn't continue, we began in a new way together, both consciously. And he would share to me that he could only see me in a very light spirit form, almost like a glowing light, or slightly my light body, where I could see him more densified. And that's why he initially saw me as being a spirit guide of some sort. We began singing together, and I followed his lead in the chanting and the toning. Very deep sounds. I'm not going to break into the song now, although I'm inclined to, but I'm not going to. I'm still a little bit shy. But very, very deep sounds with a lot of ha's and A tones that feel very much resonant with the heart. And as this next part gets even more special for me, as he was doing this and I was following his lead, and we were joining our tones, were sort of weaving together as the one song, I saw him invoke and bring in, and he didn't realize that I knew the connection. And then I explained it to him when we finished toning. An Arcturian counterpart of mine that I have been reluctant to share, and I still will only give you a small snippet of him now, because he's a very, very powerful, big energy. I'm still getting to know him, and you can see him. I see him in the astral when he greets me like he's riding in through the stars on a large bull. Sometimes it looks like a bear, but it's large, and he is a star himself, a purple star, and he is of Arcturus. And I'm in the process of really getting to know him at the moment, which has been quite the experience, something that I'll share with you perhaps in the next podcast on the full moon. I will know when it's time to share more of him. I see him come in through the stars, and that he is from a distance circling above this teepee, above the both of us, and I'm watching this shaman in front of me that's connecting with his essence and with his energy, and this purple swirl of light, like a purple spiral of light, that's going from the shaman up into this Arcturian being. And then it comes down and connects with me as well. And there's this trinity that's actually taking place between the three of us, where there's sort of more of a present version of myself, what we would consider to be a past version of ourselves, and a future version. And it's all happening simultaneously, and we're all very conscious of such. And then I share more after we come out of this experience, but I'm still in the teepee with this beautiful shaman. I share more with him about this Arcturian counterpart and where he is from, and he is very grateful. He's a man of a few words, but he was very grateful for what I shared with him and the exchange, and I in turn felt the same. It helped me ground in more to myself and understand more of my roots. So I am hoping that you can feel the essence of this experience, which enabled me. I'm going to lead on to another experience, but from this experience, I found myself, as I was going to shift back to my physical body, I shifted to another plane of existence, and I felt myself deeper in my heart space, and as if I was standing at the bottom of a set of stairs, and they didn't look like an everyday set of stairs. It was very grand, it was very light, almost made out of light. And then I knew that I wasn't to ascend those stairs in that moment. I just knew, and I was also getting tired from holding this vibration. It was late at night, and I knew that I needed to rest. And that's an important part to remember when you're in the astral plane, that you know when your body's getting tired, you know when you are needing to sleep and needing to retreat, and that you can pick up from that experience if it's relevant for you, again the next evening or whenever your heart so desires. So it was, I believe it may have been the evening after, a couple of evenings after, I was going back in the astral. Actually, it was the next evening. I remember now because I was doing it every night. And I was going back into the state again, using the toning. And this time I felt a very different toning that was coming through. It felt even more earthy and grounding, as if Gaia herself was toning back to me. And I felt, whilst I was toning and hearing this sound, a lot more earthy again, a lot more grounded, but the other sound was very grounded. So once I describe the being, you will understand the different tone, earthy tone. But as I was toning, I felt this pillar of light come through my body where I felt completely engaged. Like I felt like I was sitting right in the center of this pillar of light that was coming down through my crown, down through my body, right down through into the earth. And I felt myself engaged right into my heart space. It's a feeling that is difficult to explain. It's almost like when the key perfectly fits in the lock and you can just click it and doors open, but on a much grander scale, and it's felt in a lot more visceral way because this is happening within. And as I felt to stop toning, all of a sudden I just felt the need for myself to go quiet. And as I'm sitting there and I've gone quiet, I can feel the reverberation of my own toning still echoing within. I've got this pillar of light that has me right engaged into place. I feel the awareness of my inner eye, my yin eye, expand down into what would be the astral plane of my heart. And then I see an Indigenous woman. And she would be what I would consider to be an Australian Aboriginal Indigenous woman. And she was singing. And she was toning and she was doing her song to the earth. And she signaled me to follow her. And I was following her. And as she was toning, she's looking down at the red dirt. And she's not walking in a straight line. She's sort of weaving, and there's her movement seemed to match her sound. Her sound seems to match her movements. Again, as I've explained, and now you know the being, that it's very earthy in a different way. And I'm following her, and she brings me to this place that I was at the night before, but I'm just looking at it from a different perspective, from a different lens. And there's this red earth that's underneath my feet. And I look up and the stairs are there again. And she looks at me in the eyes, and then she places her forehead to my forehead, and we embrace, and there's this beautiful exchange that happens between us with no words. And she also looks more elder. She's dressed very plain, but her eyes are really huge, like moons, really big eyes, really big whites to her eyes, deep brown eyes. And I'm very grateful that she's brought me back to this set of stairs. And then she leaves. She just disappears. And then I'm standing before this set of stairs. And I know when I'm standing there and there's nobody else, no other being around me, and I'm looking up, these set of stairs are a reflection within this astral projection of entering the temple of my heart. And I don't remember specifically what I was clothed in within the astral projection, but all I know is that a lot of that just started to sort of like dissolve away from me, where I sort of derobed, or sort of had the clothing came off me. And I started to very slowly ascend the stairs, because as I stood on them, on each stair felt different under my foot, like it was a different texture. And each stair had many different timelines that would flash before me. upon each stair that I was actually climbing, not just one, but many. I'd see myself, many different versions of myself. I could see wounds, I could see an inner child, I could see upline and downline, meaning future and past. And I'm taking all of this in, and I'm feeling as I'm doing this that I need to come back and focus on more of the stairs individually. But for now, I felt drawn that I had to climb the stairs. So I was acknowledging what I was feeling, knowing that I would revisit it, but I had to climb the stairs. And when I reached the top, and there was no hurry. I didn't want to, like I mentioned in astral projection, you can just take yourself to where you'd like to be. I knew that I needed to feel the stairs and allow the process of that climbing or that ascension. And when I reached the top, it just felt like a very large opening with a very bright light that could see as being, there were moments it was golden, there was moments it was white, there was moments that it was just like all different spectrums of the rainbow. This is what I was standing in front of. And it was magnificent. And I was almost, or I may have, because I visited this temple many different, over and over and over again now. So I'm remembering back to, I'm fairly sure I did, or if not, it may have been the next time, but sort of fall to my knees in just complete honor of where I was, and this peaceful, serene feeling that I had come over me, of where in that moment when I was standing there at that opening to the temple of my heart, there was nothing else that mattered or that was in my awareness. Things that we carry dissolved, even questions that you have are no longer there. It was just curiosity that you have doesn't exist. I was just fully present, standing there within this space, and I hadn't at that point even entered through. I was standing like in the doorway to the temple of my heart. And again, I knew, much like the previous night, that this is something that I needed to come back and revisit the next evening and continue to do so and discover and explore what is there within the temple of my heart. So what I'm going to do is I will continue to share with you the explorations of what I've actually found within the temple of my heart, meaning the jewels that are there for us. I am somebody that has been on a very big healing process simply because I was born into trauma and I lived in trauma for a very long time. So healing has been a large theme for me in this lifetime. And I have journaled a lot of my healing and put a lot of it down on paper for my own benefit and integration, and also with the intention that I could bring this together to share to others so that it could benefit and perhaps be of service to others. And what I will say is that from visiting the temple of my heart, and now I do it every day, combined with my meditation, still combined with other astral projections, but I make sure I'm spending at least 10 to 15 minutes a day within that essence of the temple of my heart, so that I can know more of myself, who I am beyond being Melanie, and truly allow myself to embody that more. But what I discovered is that all the different processes I'd taken myself through in the healing, all of a sudden came together when I was in the heart space, and I could see them like jewels, and all I had to do, or a beautiful stone, like there's a ruby or there's an emerald, and I could picked them up, and I understood in that moment, like a feeling of integration of, I need to share this one in this way and share this one in this way, so it can benefit others. It made everything come together. And it's not that it hadn't previously, but all of a sudden it was more streamlined and I knew exactly what I needed to do. Through that process, I also began birthing the Temple of the Heart Healing Oracle, which I'm working on at this moment, which I'm almost completed actually, because I knew that I was shown within my heart that was the best way for me to deliver it, gift it to others where it may be able to be of service. And regardless of whether we are somebody that's come from trauma in this lifetime, or whether we've just experiencing challenges or a lot of conditioning or programming from when we were young that we don't prefer, or whether there's emotional connections to what we consider to be past or parallel timelines, we as humans do have what, if we're speaking from a linear perspective, a very deep, vast history of there being some type of trauma or wounding, giving our power away, not knowing ourselves. I could go on and on about this. So, and the heart really makes it clear for us to actually understand and know the walls that we've built around our heart, how we haven't fully accepted or embraced ourselves, where we're holding ourselves back, to know our limitations and to know our negative beliefs is a process for us to actually know truly. You need to know what you're not sometimes in order to know more of who you are. So I will share more of these processes with you and take you on the journey with me. And it's also birthed, which is something that I wanted to do about a year or two ago. And it didn't quite come together, or it did, but not fully the way that I'd hoped for it to. And that was teachings on the labyrinth of the heart. So whilst there will be cards in the deck that refer to the labyrinth of the heart, I do plan on offering very soon, in the next couple of weeks, launching 6 weeks workshops where it's once a fortnight or perhaps even once a week, where I'll actually be offering the teachings to walk your own labyrinth of the heart, to access the temple of the heart. Woven in within that will be astral projection experiences where you can actually learn to visit other aspects of yourself, whether that is a younger child self, whether that is a past timeline, whether that is a future timeline. All of this I actually plan on sharing, because one thing I knew when I was right there in the heart is that, and this is for any of us, I know for me, when I'm excited and I experience true healing that really works, and you feel the passion reignited and the inspiration that's flowing through your body, and your excitement for life and aspects of self that were once feeling separated, feeling more as one and remembering who they are, that I get very excited and passionate about sharing that on, with the hope that it may assist or help or heal at least one other person. And really, isn't that what our purpose is here on this planet? Even though we have many different creative expressions as to how we wish to help and be of service, whether you're working at the grocer, whether you're working in the bank, whether you're the wonderfully happy guy that comes by the rubbish truck man and empties my bin, and he looks like he's having the time of the life in his air-conditioned cabin within the truck with his music going and always gives me thumbs up and a big smile. Or whether you're writing a book or doing artwork or making sculptures, or you are hands-on healing or offering sessions or mentoring to people, they're all different creative paths of service. But at the core of all of those, the intention is to help another human so that they can benefit from it. They can feel better about themselves. They can know more of themselves. They can feel more at home being who they are. So that process of self-realization, and there are infinite amounts of ways that we can do so. So for me, this sharing is an opportunity for me to do so. I hope that it invites you into wishing to experience more of yourself, which essentially is also open contact. And I will keep you up to date with what my offerings are. But I wish to thank you so much if you stayed with me thus far. It's been a bigger process than I was initially intending to share, but it feels right. I feel really content with the sharing today. I just wish to gently remind you that I channel artwork, and I've shared with you a little bit today about my experience of channeling artwork. I now do that mostly digitally, but you can order channeled artwork through me. You can even go as far as having channeled artwork of a counterpart that is the most relevant for you. Higher self, spirit animals, you name it. There's really no limitations there. And then what you can do also is have an astral healing session or an astral immersion so that you can connect with that counterpart, and you can utilize the image that I've birthed for you as a visual to prepare you to enter into the astral state consciously. Now you can connect with that being, and I can take you into their world and realm, and you can understand yourself more through that reflection. So that would be more of an immersion and an exploration. Or you can have the astral immersion healing, where it is very much a healing session, and we will address things that are at the forefront for you, or perhaps even deep-seated, with the loving unconditional hands and guidance of this counterpart that's come through in your creation for you, that will be present within the astral healing immersion. And that's where I'll take you into the immersion with the purpose of healing. That healing can take place in a forest, aboard a ship, in a healing chamber, all different types of experiences. It can be sitting beside a stream in a forest and meeting your inner child. And there's really, again, I work within the fabric of your own being. And my higher self and your higher self, always with each frame. You don't need to have a channeled artwork done to also have these experiences. That's not necessary. The channeled artwork there is to offer you a visual, a portal for you to connect with and communicate with this being, and that can also then be a bridge into the astral as well. So you don't need to have the channeled artwork to have these experiences. I also offer the vocal channeling sessions, where I bring through one of my Arcturian counterparts by the name of Anuba. She also speaks for the Arcturian collective, and that for me, I would just like to share, is a very beautiful way of clients being able to have. The best way to share this is like sitting down and having a conversation, a very casual conversation, but it can be as deep as you choose it to be, with the Arcturian collective. So it feels as if you are having a conversation with the universe. The Arcturians are a very high frequency, but at the same time it feels intimate. And it's difficult to put into words because it's very vast, but yet intimate. Like you are speaking with one person, but but a very vast consciousness at the same time. And I've got a special on that at the moment because it's introductory. Channeling the Arcturians is new for me. So that's all on my website at melanieware.co. Sorry, that was my previous name, at melaniestewart.co. So thank you again very much for being here. I truly appreciate your presence. I thank you for your comments. Please let me know how you are feeling about this podcast share. I love to hear from you, and I wish you a very abundant, peaceful, serene, calm new moon. And thank you always for choosing to be you. We send our unconditional love to you. Bye for now.